Adrenaline in my soul, strategize with mind's control. Adrenaline in my soul, let's roll. GenCon. So, if you missed the previous video this week, why you shouldn't buy any game at GenCon and what maybe you should buy instead. But since we're doing it, what are the games you should at least have on your radar? Because, again, I advocate usually not buying at conventions. One, if you can't go to conventions in the first place like me, that kind of eliminates quite a few options. Two, if you go to conventions, do you really want to pay a 20 to 40% markup for a game that's going to be available in a month for less? Or three, is it even going to be in your collection? Is it even going to be remembered a year from now? Now, those disclaimers aside, what are the ones that have caught my eye, at least, that I'll be checking out in the next couple months post GenCon? Post. Or trying to trade for. That's what you should be doing. Let's go. So what's the biggest GenCon release? Well, in some circles, it's going to be Disney's Lorcana, but is it going to actually hold true? Can a TCG, a collectible card game, really make that big of a wave? Yeah, but probably not on the board game scene style of things, right? I'd love to dabble in it. I'm not going to chase rares. I'm not going to chase promos, and I'm not going to pay the buku bucks. And that's the problem with something like this. So, you know, I'm looking at it like Star Wars Destinies. A year or 2 years from now, I'll pick up a collection of somebody else's that's sick of it after it's died. Question mark. But that's sort of the big wonder. Is this actually going to hold traction? Because Ravensburger, I don't know. Disney only cares about the cash. So I guess they're going to probably hype this as much as they can. Are they going to do like a Flesh and Blood where they're going to put out like a first edition, second edition where you can get everything, but it's not as good as the limited edition? I have no idea. People have been playing it. Dice Tower had their review out because they get everything early. And we're going to see it for the masses, though, soon. Are people going to like it? Is it going to stand up? I mean, it's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. Bookmark this one 2 years from now, and we'll see where it's at. Does it go Star Wars Destiny? Does it go Android Netrunner? Does it go somewhere in between? No one knows. It's all speculative. The art's beautiful. Does the gameplay hold up, though? Not a forking clue. Second one on this list is actually going to be a slight surprise, but maybe not if you're familiar with this channel as well. Cooperative. Cooperative is my forte, if you will. Forbidden. The Forbidden series. Yeah. We're getting a new Forbidden. Forbidden Jungle. What is it going to entail? Again, nobody knows. And that's kind of the unique thing. I like the theme better than the other ones. Sky was forgettable at best for most people. And the other ones, again, are sort of this lighter-esque intro cooperative style pandemic game. This is allegedly going to have a little bit more. It's on pre-order at a couple places online, including overseas, but details are sparse again. And so can it provide just a step up from the intro level that the rest of these games are? Again, nothing wrong with intro level stuff, but I'm looking for something in between. Something that's a slight challenge for me in the game group, something that it's also slightly portable and adaptable with the kids, the family. And I want to see what they can do. So this one's going to be heavily on my radar as a huge co-op fan. We'll just stay with the huge co-op theme though for this second. And we'll go over to Sky Team. Sky Team is a 2-player cooperative game from La Scorpion Mosque where you're landing a plane. And it's just that with a cooperative dice rolling control. There's been sort of rumblings and demos of previous conventions already earlier this year, and overall, I think the reception has been relatively positive. I mean, you're just having to go through the basics of die rolling in terms of putting the dice in the correct spaces after you roll them in your cockpit, in the controls of its speed, the flaps, extending the landing gear, contacting the control tower, clearing the path. I have no clue what this is going to look like. It reminds me a little bit of sort of a roll and write-esque version of something like Let's Make a Bus Route, only with more cooperative nature, which again is super appealing actually as a 2-player semi-abstract style game. Yeah. Lighter, get to the table. I think it's only like 15 to 30 minutes to play. So it's checking boxes, but I worry about replayability as well. You know, again, not that you can't replay it, but even with dice and the chaos that comes with that as someone who's dice curious, is it going to actually be different enough every time you play it to make me want to go back to it, right? That's the chaotic nature of the cooperative games that I like in the first place, with the Loop, with Spirit Island, with the Pandemics, right? That each time you play, even if you play with the exact same things, persons and peoples, you know what I mean, like persons around the table and peoples with the actual, like, you're choosing the characters and stuff, you're still going to get a completely different outcome of what's happening on the board each time. So that's what I'm looking at from Sky Team. The next one that, again, remains a big mystery is My Island, question mark. It's a Knizia game, the sequel, standalone expansion to the legacy game My City, as a tile-laying sticker placement game, and this is just going to be an island instead of a city. So Cosmos is putting it out, but again, nobody knows anything. Nothing. And so how is it going to differ? How is it going to be similar? What's the price point going to be? You know, people, you know, commenting on the fact that if you can get My City for $23, why would you pay $50 or $60 for this, which may be a slight reimplementation? And hopefully, again, with a reimplementation, you're going to make things better. You're going to address some of the criticisms and the faults. And, you know, that's the big issue with legacy games in the first place is, do you actually want to go back and play them after you finish them? Because a lot of these legacy games like this, like the Pandemics, you know, you have a unique board. You can go back and play this, Chris. Oh, yeah, no one does that. Said no one ever. I'm going to go play Pandemic Legacy, my endgame board again. Which brings up the whole Ticket to Ride thing, but that's an Essen video later this year, because this is going to be demos at GenCon, but no availability. So we're skipping that one right now from that sense. So the other one that's been on my radar, probably the most intriguing one from Devere, not as heavy as Jerusalem or Bitoku here, but Three Ring Circus. This is probably my sleeper hit on the week on this one. Just because 45 to 75 minutes, 1 to 4 players cooperatively, competitively, actually, building up your circus, hiring artists, performers, because your circuses are empty. You're forming the company itself through your actions, moving around the map, trying to go to different towns, trying to perform at small towns, large towns. There's going to be benefits of both, detriments of both. How are you going to manage the two of those? How much funds you're going to rake in is going to depend on that. What the demands are in each of those cities in order to get the best rewards out of them. And, you know, it's going to be just kind of an interesting test. It's going to be an interesting dynamic of mechanics, majority, hand management, and point-to-point movement. So I don't know. I like the aesthetic. I like the theme. Devere is knocking it out from the artistic value, so that's not really a concern. But is the gameplay going to hold up as well? I mean, yeah, with these two, Devere has a very solid reputation of putting out games that are this heavy, but a little bit lighter. You know, this one's probably the lightest easily of the three at a 2.75 current rating on Board Game Geek. That being said, again, you know, information being sparse and ratings being low, take that for what you will, but I would say it's definitely going to be lighter than either of these two. And as someone who's looking for something a slight notch below either of these two in terms of heaviness, I am encouraged by that. So that one's going to be really appealing to me from that aspect. The next one, Czech Games, actually, I've had this one on my radar. I talked about it a couple months ago. Kutna, the City of Silver, where you are smelting silver, trying to develop a medieval city along the way and build this Gothic cathedral, which is going to mark the end game scoring of this. And again, area majority with a ever-changing dynamic market depending on what goods are produced and what services are available, as well as tile placement to go along with it because you're building. And this is the really interesting double-sided cards are going to be the main crux of the mechanics that you're going to be utilizing to do everything from mining to purchasing to building to help guilds build themselves up, as well as, you know, just the production and profit that goes along with it. Asymmetric guilds, though, with the starting factions that you're getting, is going to be interactive and how it impacts the economy on a turn-by-turn basis. I don't know. Again, slightly heavier. I'd say it's probably more along the lines of, speaking of, but is it going to hold up? And again, with these style of games, does this mishmashing of mechanics with the tile laying, with a little bit of the area majority, with the economic dynamic market, does that really work? What is different enough about this market mechanic with an economy situation that makes it stand out from the other similar ones? That's been the biggest disclaimer I've played with a couple of the games lately in the last month or two. Like, okay, it's fine, but why would I want to play this one again? Why would I want to play X over Y? Why would I want to play Y over Z? And that commonality in this sense is what this one is going to have to prove, and we'll see. Because the medium weight Euro games are a dime a dozen nowadays, so you really have to do something to stand out from the crowd. The thematic incorporation so far on all these games is never the issue, as you can tell. does the gameplay mechanic hold up? That's the real test of time. Next up, we got the latest of Great Western Trail, New Zealand edition, which the map apparently is not anything like the actual geography. So I've heard some people are, predictably and reasonably upset about that. I mean, why would you make geography not representative of the actual real world situation? That just boggles my mind if you're going to name it off of something like this. If you don't want it to represent a place in the New World or a place in the actual world, don't name it that place. So anyway, though, what is this one bringing different? How is this one any different than the previous two? Do you need this one if you have one or even both of the other ones? I mean, they say more challenges, acquire new breeds of sheep. How many breeds of sheep do you need, by the way? You're having islands to go back and forth between, and you're just trying to increase the value of the wool. Again, sure? Question mark? But, wait for smarter minds than I to figure out which one of these three is right for you later on. I guarantee somebody in the next 6 months will have a video outlining the main differences of why you should have one of these over the other and which one is right for you. So unless you're super enthusiastic about this thematic incorporation of wool in vague shaping geography-wise New Zealand, maybe don't buy it yet and wait, right? Novel idea there. Anyway, throwing that out there as well for the sake of doing so. Yeah, Board and Dice, though. Board and Dice has put out another one in terms of Barcelona. Again, speaking of mid-weight Euro-style games with worker placement, also tile placement, though, with this one, where it's 19th century Barcelona, and you're trying to expand the city, and you're constructing buildings to accommodate the citizens who want to, leave the old and go to the new. Streets, trains, public services, architectural art style that is just being developed in the manner of speaking of that time frame. Variable number of rounds, though, that's the key tricky point here, interrupted by 3 separate scoring phases before a final one. Each round, you get a single turn. May have 2 or more actions. You build, you prep. So very similar, very different. How does it stand out? It's been well received so far in the minuscule amount of ratings on Board Game Geek at the time of me filming this, but is it really going to flow as nicely as it seems? I mean, again, thematic incorporation is beautiful. And this is by the same designer, Danny Garcia, from the more recently crowdfunded, I believe in this past year, from Alley Cat Games of Arborea, which was relatively well thought of on the heavier side of things. And this has a slightly heavier rating overall than even that. So a little bit of something for everybody so far. But again, try before you buy. And we're going to go over to one of my few personal favorites here. But again, I'm not sure availability. I saw people playing it like one of these past weekends at some other small convention. Devious Weasel Games. Cosmic Frog expansion. Find mUCK. Psionics are getting introduced to cosmic faring, mile-high long galaxy star resource-eating frogs in a chaotic take-that style of game, which honestly takes a little bit too long to set up, but is a whole heck of a lot of fun. And it's just going to add more stuff, more craziness. And I love seeing the more craziness take that in this style of game. And so they just embrace the craziness, which is what makes this so good, which is why eventually this is going to be an expansion that I will pick up, because it's not taking away from the base game. It's not over complicating. It's just adding more of the crazy goodness, sort of like a King of Tokyo expansion type vibe, if you will. So that's the only expansion I think we're really talking about on this list today. The other one that's sort of made a little bit of waves is World Wonders. World Wonders is rocking it now, again, with the minuscule amount of ratings on Board Game Geek, but similar to several other previously mentioned, your tile placement. But you're building your own ancient city here with gold each round to support the economy. That generates food, that generates commerce, that generates population, that makes your city grow in the first place. 9 different types of buildings with sort of a very aesthetically pleasing 3D presence. Sort of like a Foundations of Rome meets Seven Wonders, if you will, aesthetically, thematically, but nothing like it either way in terms of the gameplay. This one probably has the least interesting title of all of them, but again, on the short list is going to be actually much higher than several of these titles on this list, just by the nature of the actual gameplay mechanics and my suitability in terms of getting it to the table. And that's going to be the question, right? Rubber meets the road. Buy meets the table. Trade meets the collection. But buy? don't know. Again, too many of these are too much unknown at this point, and too speculative of whether or not you'll like it versus what you think you're going to like. The last one up here is going to be Blue Orange, their latest release in the style of King Domino, but this one is Moon River. Again, I talked about this one a few weeks ago on the news roundup. Using the King Domino system, just minus the dominoes, question mark, you're making these landscape of tiles to score points, but instead of tiling your dominoes, you're using half dominoes, which one edge has a jigsaw puzzle, so you can connect them instead. And these combined to craft your own dominoes in the first place. So more variability, they say, as more randomization. You can pre-order it, should be out at the end of the week, and it's already pre-orderable on Amazon. And you're starting around your central castle just like before. River, expand away from it. Crowns, replaced by cow meeples. Okay, and you can use cowboys to move them. Okay, maybe we're jumping the cow here a little bit. Shark, anyway. You know where I'm going with that. But those are the ones that at least caught my eye right now. Again, you're going to see some of the crowdfunding stuff, but these are the ones that you haven't seen crowdfunded. You haven't seen just being delivered. You know, none of that stuff. This is the, okay, what's going to be new and shiny there for the first time. So there you go. Few games for thought, but definitely not needing to buy any of them unless they're really, really, really striking your fancy and you have enough information to make a well-informed buy, not a gut FOMO purchase. You heard it here. There you go. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. Thanks for watching. See you around. Did you like the intro? Adrenaline in My Soul by Downstraight. Set to the theme of the Cody Rhodes WWE entrance. Whoa!